Let's now take you to the Labadi Beach Hotel, the scorecard, the assessment of President Akufo-Addo's governance so far is happening, and currently the discussion is on the education sector. We've got different analysts, we've got Professor Peter Korchi, and also the Deputy Education Minister, Iya Osei-Dutum, is also there. Let's take you now to the venue.
At every level of the education sector, issues of accountability, because it has become a major issue within the education system. And accountability include ensuring that teachers are spending the time efficiently, and they are making sure that there's time on task. And so my expectation was is that government is able to address these issues comprehensively instead of the piecemeal approach that we have for many years been addressing our educational issues.
So your concerns mainly had to do with approach and how these issues are tackled. We'll come to what you have seen in the past 23 months in a moment. But of course, I can't ask the Deputy Minister of Education what he expected in 2017. you were in power. So take us to the next leg of the conversation, which is what has happened since you took power. Before that, though, Raymond will run us through some of the quick points in the manifesto that we were expecting.
Yes, and I'll start by specifically quoting what was in page 43. It says, the NPP will create a consultative council of researchers, the Association of Ghana Industries, Ghana Chamber of Commerce. I mean, these people will be part of the, what do you call it, the consultative council. The Chamber of Commerce, representatives of major banks and venture capital funds to source for funding to make research findings from the laboratory to the marketplace meaningful. We also talked about establishing a manufacturing plant at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Daniel School, for the production of prototypes of the inventions and creations of scientists and innovators in the country. In fact, it moved on to say the plant will build prototypes also. Now, reintegrate physical education and recreation into mainstream education. They also talked about ensuring that kindergarten places are available for all 4-year-old children in the country. It talked about redefining basic education to include senior high school, covering, and it has specifics on those, covering vocational, agricultural, technical schools, and make it available for free on a universal basis to all Ghanaians. So, I mean, that's a very important point because of what has been the free researchers talk all this while. Now, build an effective partnership with religious bodies, civic organizations, and the private sector in the delivery of quality education. This partnership will also include the areas of management, supervision, and training of teachers in their units. It talked about teachers who will be treated with respect, and we shall ensure that teachers' salaries and allowance are paid regularly and on time. Now, the next one is about focus on the provision of incentives that will motivate teachers and reward their hard work in the classroom. It also said that we'll collaborate with NAT, NAGRAT, and other teaching associations to facilitate an affordable housing scheme for teachers. There is this one to do with ensuring that teachers who upgrade their qualifications and skills are promoted promptly, and that their salary increases take immediate effect. There's more about restoring allowance to Arabic Islamic instructors, and additionally support Arabic Islamic instructors with training and other incentives. There's the provision of sporting facilities and reviving sporting competitions among schools. There's a call to reactivate the original aim of linking technical vocational education to technical universities, to refocus on technical education and position them to be at the forefront of the NPP's One District, One Factory program. Now, government said it was also going to encourage the colleges of education to update their curricula to ensure its graduates are well equipped and restore in full teacher training allowances. There's this point that they said they will also increase the amount of loans under the students' loan scheme and restructure to streamline its administration to enhance recovery of the loans. And we will also abolish the payment of utility bills by students. The book and research allowance for lecturers will be restored, and we will establish a research fund to facilitate further research and innovation. So this is in broad scope, what the government said will do, looking at the year 2016 campaign promise.
Raymond, you skipped our favorites, the one we picked on the show yesterday.
Oh.
Collaboration with the private sector to provide free Wi-Fi coverage for senior high schools and tertiary institutions nationwide, dedicated to learning, administration, and enhancing the capacity to do research. Don't you want to go back to SHS now?
Yeah.
Dr. Educhu, what has been done in the past 23 months?
Thank you for the opportunity, and I want to say that I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to speak with your audience here and in various homes across the country. And because of the global nature of the world, people are watching you from America too. So I'm sure there are people watching us from around the world on Facebook and everywhere. We say hello to, from Ghana, the most beautiful nation in the world. Yes, it is. And I hear people affectionately calling us GH. You know, it's nice. It's a great country.
We started calling ourselves
GH, and people have bought into it. All right. I wish I could start from where you left off. I also see what my friend concluded with as so exciting. And I wish there was a board here for us to say check, check, check.
Oh, yes, we're doing
that. So before we go to the check, it's exciting. And you are reminding me of 2016. I was part of the manifesto writing committee. So I was part of the education manifesto writing committee. So these are things, deliberations and other things that we had to go through to come to those conclusions. And it's a rare opportunity when you happen to be part of the writing team and then we transition to implementation team. So there are things that you did not anticipate will go the way you wanted it to go at the time you were writing. And there are some that you say, wow, I thought it would take longer, but it comes so fast. If you look at improving teacher education, for example, when we came to power, the NDC has started the initiative with DFID to reform teacher education curricula. But at that point, they were reforming it to make it a diploma. And my minister saw the need to really look at changing the whole thing from a 3-year diploma, which was essentially 2 years, because you do 2 years in the classroom, and can you imagine, 1 year for pedagogy, 1 year for content? How do you take a high school student who sometimes even have limited capacities or capabilities in mathematics, and then put him in a classroom, give him a few hours a week in mathematics, and then as the way to teach mathematics, which is the pedagogy, and say, hey, you are done, 2 years, 1 year, go out, try it on the children. And whether you do well or not, you've done well, 2 years plus 1. And that was what was going to happen. When we came, we saw the need to reform it totally. Because I was reading the PISA reports, I was reading the TIMSS reports. And one thing that really struck me was when I read the TIMSS report and realized all the nations that had done well on the TIMSS and the PISA were those who had teachers with bachelor's degree or higher teaching science. And we had a diploma. We had 2 years. And others were using 4 years. How could you compete? So the decision was made that it has to be 4 years, and then plus 1 year induction. So actually, we are moving from 3 to 5 in order to make sure that the students will be taught well by teachers who are fully equipped. So this is one of your quality indicators, and that ties into what Professor was saying, that his expectation is access, equity, quality, cross-cutting, management, accountability issues, and that's exactly what we did. So we're reading your mind, because if you look at the issue of access, we've actually done something that is so unique. I was speaking in Mexico a few days back. They were super excited to know that we're doing what we're doing in Ghana in terms of granting access to everyone to go to secondary schools. But you see, before we talk about all this, I know that at the end of the day, the question is going to be free senior high school, and why not? It's a historic moment. So yes, I can understand. But we have done so many other things. And I will really begin by saying, and I know people have quoted me and misquoted me, but I'll tell you this. If you're looking from the outside, and you are familiar with education systems from around the world, you come to Ghana, you look at what we do, and you will quickly say that we don't yet have a system. We don't. And we have to create a system and then get it to work. The PISA report on Ghana, and if you read it, it says something. Of course, when we quit, we're the last but one. And I don't understand how you do an assessment at the international level. You are last but one, and therefore you say, I quit. Instead of saying, where did we go wrong and why can't we change it? PISA report is saying that if we do not reform our system, even if we provide all the teaching and learning materials, the outcome will still be poor.
Right.
And the insightful thing was about the fact that we have so many leakages. So we all hear of the fact that rising tide lift all boats, right? If your boat was leaking before the tide came, it's not going to lift you. It will sink you when the tide comes. So we have a leaking boat. And unless we fix that boat, no matter what you do, you are not going to get the learning outcomes. And so I want the issues I'm going to focus on, talk about as we're doing in terms of setting up a national assessment program. Because you see, when we talk about teacher absenteeism, and people are spending money, they are fixated on it, they are concerned, it's a symptom of a problem. It's just a symptom. It's not a problem in itself. You see, if that head teacher at that school was held accountable for performance and can in fact lose his job if his students don't do well, do you think he will allow a teacher to be absent so that he loses his job? No. But how do you expect that headmaster to do well when you did not train him or her to become a head teacher or headmaster? So you have a capacity issue. I've walked into schools where you talk to a headmaster who is working hard and doesn't know his performance data. Even for senior high schools. I went to my own school, famous Yache Pramso Senior High School. And yeah, it's the most famous school in the country now. So I walked into the school, a big ceremony, headmaster about to retire, and people are telling me, don't allow him to extend his time here. He's the worst headmaster we've ever had. But I go to every senior high school with my data in my pocket. So I pulled out my phone, look at the data for Yache Pramso Senior High School. The headmaster went to the school, and the A1 to C6, that is the percentage of students who move out to tertiary from the school, when he went there, it was 12.5%. Some of us say, yeah, 12.5% better than most schools, because some schools in Accra have 4%. That is, out of every 100 youth who spend their time at the school, for 3 years, only 4 are able to move on to tertiary in schools in Accra. So Yache Pramso had 12.5 when this man went there. The next year, he went to 18.5. When he was leaving, it was 41%. But the bad news is that he didn't know. He himself. So people are saying that he's the worst headmaster, but the guy is the best headmaster they've ever had.
Okay, so Dr. Edichum, I'm hearing a lot of ideas around the foundation, the systemic underpinnings of how we structure education in the country. I'm curious to see how the manifesto itself reflected those changes so that we can score you better, because you were voted into power based on a document. But we were joined whilst you were speaking by one of our panelists. He is lawyer and vice president of policy, in charge of policy at Imani Africa, senior consultant, Parental Consulting Limited, Kofi Parental. Mr. Parental, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Great. I thought I heard someone clapping. We are moving on. We are moving on. So what we'll do is that we all gave our expectations of the NPP when they were entering power. Unfortunately, you were late. I know for very good reason. Yes. So what we'll do is take us into the next leg. The big conversation that we'll start with for the next 20 or so minutes will be on free SHS. We'll simply discuss free SHS for about 20 minutes, and then we'll move to other aspects of the education policy. Your opening comments on that. We have seen hundreds of thousands of students go to school. We have seen the implementation of a double-track system. Has this been done well?
Thank you. It's a scorecard, so the question is, have they done what they said they will do? And on that, I don't think they have. The other issue is that Minister just said we didn't have an education system. We did. It produced me, it produced Kofi Annan, it produced many great people. But we did not maintain it for decades, and it ran down. In my father's time, people came from a village school a Saito school straight into Achimota and went on to do great things. Today, it can't happen. So we did have a system. We didn't maintain it. We ran it down. Now it's not producing people just like what he's saying. People go through school for 6 years and they can't speak a sentence in English. Now, what we needed to do was to fix that system. Unfortunately, they came in with free SHS and it's taken over everything. It's as if we didn't have problems with education. Everybody's talking about free SHS because really that's the front burner issue. So if you ask me, that is part of the problem. The fact that we've had this heavy duty issue that seems to be papering over everything as if we didn't have any other problem in education.
The media publicized and that's our fault?
Well, you set the tone. So if you ask me...
I was going to say that because if I took a census, and not in defense to sound defensive or anything, but if I took a census of 10 people, asked them what were 3 promises that you heard from the MPP going into government, based upon which you made your decision to vote. 1 D1F, free SHS, and 1 other. So it's only fair that we start this conversation on that.
Yeah. So I'm saying this because we will end up talking free SHS, but really what I'm trying to say is that we have other issues in education. Free SHS is a new invention, all right? So for me, my scorecard or my rating is what have they done about the problems that existed in education before free SHS became an issue, and then what have they done over their own free SHS promise?
Go ahead. So I'll give you 3 minutes, 1 minute on your general comments, since that's the route you want to go, and you take the next 2 on free SHS specifically.
Right. In our own work, part of the major problem with education was quality. And quality 2 ways. There were too few schools producing good quality. Many of them were private, especially in the preschool area. And then in the secondary school area, too few schools producing quality output, most of them in the public school area. And the spaces that were limited. And then you had grade C, D schools with spaces unfilled, and they were not producing anything. What you needed to do was to balance over these spaces. Now, that problem, I'm not too sure what has been done with it because multi-track has come to change all of that. Then you had a situation where, indeed, you did not have enough funding in education for all kinds of reasons, including the fact that we didn't have enough money. But even with the funding you had in education, a lot of it was going waste and was not being well used. We were hoping that there will be a change in that kind of arrangement. A central issue to that was the management of schools. Schools were being centrally managed from Accra. And everywhere, including where the Deputy Minister has come from in the States, local ownership is important. The school boards are important. The headmasters have real power. A headmaster today cannot fire a non-performing teacher. The teacher can come to school drunk and not do anything. He can't. And the community has no say. Okay, so you had that problem. In our view, over many years of research, we think that is the single most important problem in our education system. The responsibility structure is such that it does not encourage performance. Now, I don't think much, if anything, has been done about these things that I've spoken about. Okay, on free SHS, the promise was made. You are aware that Imani was more or less the main intellectual resistance to that, not because we didn't like free education, but because we worried about intentions against implementation. To make a long story short, first we said nobody has asked that their kids' school fees be paid. Nobody asked for it. It was a political promise. Why that is important is that you always have choices in terms of what you want to use money for. And the politicians choose to do this. Now, after choosing to do it, what we said was that the intention is good, but we don't see practically a plan that can implement it successfully. The first thing we pointed out, and I'm talking years ago, was that even their analysis of how much it will cost was wrong. We proved it. To their credit, they accepted that point, and there was a lot of, shifting around, and they kind of got those things right. But we have been improving right now. Then you have the problem with the real strategy. And one of the things we said about the strategy was that immediately you make it free, you're going to have a big, influx of people. And I'm not sure all of them will not want to go to grade A schools. So you needed to do something with space. And so we had, a lot of things to say about different things. And each time we were told, there's a thinking around it, there's a planning around it, and then there'll be, a solution for all these problems. Over time, we have come to see a number of things. One, there are people even within this government saying that the means testing we've been talking about, which was said to be more or less impossible or unfair, needs to be done. Number two, we've seen double track come in, and one of the reasons that we were told was that they did not foresee that there will be so much, in terms of people wanting to go to SHS. It's a very easy thing to foresee. If you want to know who is going to go into SHS next year, those people are in JHS 3 this year. If you want to know those who go into SHS next 2 years, they're JHS 2 right now. And we do have a document where we predicted all these things. So saying you did not foresee it was a bit difficult for us to understand. Now you have a situation where there is complaint about the funding. Look, I've said before that political will is important, and clearly this government has it. They are determined to find the means to, fund this thing because there's no way they will let it fail. But at what cost?
Okay.
At what cost? So all these things still remain, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't think we have come through free SHS with clarity enough about the future of free SHS to give us confidence that this program is even on course.
Right. Let me switch now to Prof. Korte. I'll take all the concerns that come to you, Dr. Duchu. I know that some of them need to be addressed immediately, but I'll crave your indulgence. Prof. Korte, so in your opening remarks, you said you also have challenges with free SHS implementation.
Yes, to reemphasize my point, I said I support the policy of getting everybody to school. There's no two ways about that. But then, quickly, I think I agree with Kofi that we had systems which worked, which produced some of us. I went to one of the best schools in the UK, Warwick and Manchester, and I competed with all the people out there. And I believe our young ones here can equally compete when they step out there. So we haven't maintained the systems, but we still have something that is good, and let's be proud of it. Implementation, I had issues. One is the funding. I don't think the current system is sustainable. The government can struggle and struggle to defend it, but from where I sit, I don't see this sustainable. And I've offered some suggestions. Why not target means testing? Sometimes we throw our hands in the air, you cannot identify people. It is not true. We have LEAP. LEAP has over 240,000 beneficiaries. It is one of the well-targeted programs Ghana has ever had. I've spent over a week or more in the villages assessing LEAP, and they will tell you it is the computer that selects them, and they believe that those that have been selected are the right people. So if you have 480, 240 we've been able to target, why can't we scale it up and target SHS students? We can do this. I don't think we should. Another option would be for us to target grade C and D schools and say, look, these schools are free, because they don't have the numbers. So if people go there, they are free. Otherwise, if you go to a grade A school like Achimota and Wesley Girls and whatever, why do you pay Kofi Bento's son's school fees? I meet him at Achimota. Why do you pay his fees? I mean, I don't think we should do that. There are other things that he would rather prefer government does for him. Provide ambulance for Kofi Bento when he's ill, so that he can be, provide a hospital bed. So I think targeting can be done properly. The last one, the third option would be to have a scholarship scheme where those who cannot afford means there's a scholarship scheme, and then we can, there are other options that we can discuss. Support from parents, I don't find that, and I speak from experience. I've been the House PTA chair for Achimota School for 4 or 5 years. When we went in there were several things. We paved the whole compound. We got them a pitch. We got them a generator. We got them a borehole. There was even an e-library that 10 of us bought computers, renovated. Parents are willing to support. Then we have Form 1 parents who come in. It's agreed that you pay 300 cedis each Form 1 parent. That's the money we use to support the school. We were providing them with dispenser water because parents were bringing boxes of water. If you go to the housemaster's lounge, filled with water, filled with fizzy drinks. We said, no, let's provide dispenser water. Through these levies, we were providing that. Later, we were told to write a letter, seek approval. We did. It was turned down. So parents cannot support the free SHS system. We want to help. Government cannot do it alone. It is our country. We just want to help.
Prof,
so I believe there are things
so
we can...
If you make that categorical statement that government cannot do it alone, would you then say that we did not scrutinize or question the policy enough at the beginning, so that when government said, I am taking it on at the beginning of 2017, we should have seen it from the beginning that this is not going to work?
No, at the beginning, I never foresaw a situation where government was going to take on everything. I thought PTA was going to do what they were still doing. So for me, later when I realized there were things we couldn't do in the house,
that was a limiting factor.
That was a limiting factor.
Okay. I want to move on to Mr. Hafar now to take your concerns in a few minutes on specifically on the policy.
Yeah, there's a point that Bento raised in terms of management of the schools. And it's good to know that you scale those kind of hurdles. And I went to Fransman School, the same school that the young man went to. But I'll tell you,
the best school ever.
But I'll tell you this. I was teaching English in the United States. The people that I was teaching, and also the teachers, about 100 teachers, I was one of the few who were selected for a program called GATE, Gifted and Talented Education. And then I had people come to ask me, are you sure you came from Africa to teach us English? Then I'll tell you this. They spoke better than I did, but I knew the mechanics. I knew the mechanics, Papa. There's no two ways about it. But then the issue was this: how was I educated? And it comes to the question that you raised again: management of the schools. Now, this is a perennial problem. It was perennial then, and it's still here. And the issue is this. And again, you know, the work that I do, where I train teachers, I've gone all over the country, from Accra all the way to Wa and so on. But then the attitude. Again, it's a Ghanaian problem too. The attitude in terms of how schools are mismanaged, where the concern is, there's no concern for the well-being of the students. I will tell you this, you know, I keep saying at my age, I turned 71 in April. I can't lie. You know, I have to tell the truth about this, that we don't seem enamored enough with commitment to help our young people. That is the point. I've gone to schools where there are no toilets, and I'll tell you, nobody cares. And nobody cares meaning this. The parents themselves don't care, because the issue is this. Here you are. You have a child who's going to school, and you'll be there, or she'll be there from about 8 to 3 p.m. And human beings have to attend to nature's call. Where are they going to go? Parents themselves don't care. Now, the issue is this. What if it's a girl who's in a period? What does she have to do? These are the larger questions that have to be addressed. Now, I went to France, but I also started school in a bush, a place called Tutuka, you know, Boise. I don't know if some of you guys know it there. It was one room, no toilet. So if you need to ease yourself, you go behind a tree, ease yourself, and you pick the closest leaf and clean yourself with it. And we're smelling all the time. You know, these are the larger issues that society has to be able to grapple with. Now, having said that, who are the people who manage our schools? You know, and you realize that it's someone who's probably taught mathematics and been very good at it for about 10 years, or someone who's taught integrated science, has been good at it, and so on. Things have changed. We need a caliber of qualified people who can show leadership in terms of managing the schools, and they don't necessarily have to be teachers. And now let me give some example too. You know, we had Reverend Lockhart, who was one of the people who produced Francis Bartels, who produced Kofi Annan and the rest of it. He didn't teach, but he made sure that every teacher was on task. The instructional strategies were together. The pedagogy was together. And that no absenteeism, and then there was no presenteeism. You know what presenteeism is?
Yes, sure.
The person is there, but they're not going to do their work.
So Reverend Lockhart, in that example, he showed ownership.
Yeah.
It's more serious than absenteeism. You have no idea. So he showed ownership. Mr. Afa, I'll steal a few minutes of your time because we want to get a few more thoughts on this. Dr. Ama, the challenges that Mr. Hafa raised are very similar to Ray. You will remember that series of stories we did after the rollout of free SHS, where we went and we reported on shortage of infrastructure. There was this young lady in a certain senior high school in the Eastern region who said that when she has to eat herself, she puts it in a polythene bag, she winds it, and she throws. I'm quoting him. So it seems like these challenges were there with us, and they seemed to be more pronounced with the free SHS policy. Would you agree with that?
Well, thanks very much. I think that the problem was already there, and obviously when you have an expanded access to secondary education, you have extended enrollment, and so there's going to be some pressure on existing facilities. So to that extent, you will say that, I mean, the facilities are not adequate to accommodate the increased enrollment. But we have to also look at it from context. I believe in what is workable, and what in philosophy you say pragmatism. What is workable? You have a government that has a political commitment to open access to secondary education. Secondary education, which many people have been denying for many years, is a structure in nature. We design a system that says that some people must go to secondary school, some people must not go to secondary school from the onset. And so when we set up the BEC system in the 1987 reform, the whole arrangement at the time is because of lack of facilities and lack of spaces. Very few people must go to secondary school. And therefore, you have roughly 60% of the students writing BEC obtaining the qualifying grades to go to secondary school. And even that, because of limited facilities, you will get less than, you get roughly 40% of them going. You have people with a grade 36, but they can't make it. And so, in most cases, many of the people having access to secondary school are the people who had opportunity to attend the best private schools, because there's already lack of public trust in the public school system at the basic school level. So the people who managed to go to private schools, and especially the top private schools, and got good grades, they are the people who transit into secondary school. Now, there's an issue of building second-class citizens here, because if education is a means of bridging the poverty-rich gap, then it means that you start from, you are from a rich family, relatively good family, you manage to start KG, finish secondary school, and go to university. So that's been the system.
And that was a problem.
And that's a problem.
Yes. So
and therefore, the government says that, look, we want to open access to secondary school, and we want to start in 2017. Now, in program implementation, obviously, even if you had piloted it for years, you're still going to have a problem. So what's important is that you have started, you identify the problems, and you continue to deal with them. So it's anticipated, and even if we had done piloting, we will still have a problem. Now, let me come to the issue of targeting and the rest. IFES has been...
Can we leave that for your second round when I come back? I want to have the Deputy Minister address them. It's almost 11 a.m. I want to have the Deputy Minister address that specifically. So I cataloged some of the challenges that came up. Means testing should have been applied. Double track should have been foreseen. We had Prof. Korte give us four different ways that we could have supported the free SHS policy with outside funding. Did we not see any of these?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I'm sitting here, and I look through the lens of equity, and the comments that are coming is telling me something, and it's profound. When I heard Prof. Korte say that make category C and D schools for free, code word for saying consign the poor to the poorest performing schools. Terrible. I mean, let me tell you, whatever way you look at it, if I'm poor and I'm sitting at home, you are telling me that Achimota is not for you. So when people talk about allowance to pay, let me tell you, allowance to pay, if your child was sent to Antoine Senior High School and you are asked to pay, would you pay? It's when we tell you that you can pay for your child to go to Wesley Girls. That is when you say, I'll pay. What we are saying is this. We're not going to create second-class citizens anymore. We've done that for 60 years. When you talk about a system, the system that was catering to the training of the brightest among us, students with a grade 36 are cut off from the system. They can't go to senior high school, and they happen to be from the poorest of families. Is that a system? A system that says that if you get a grade 30, you dare not go near Achimota because you don't belong there. Is that a system? We have a serious equity problem in this country. We are all living in jails in our homes, burglar-proof everywhere, afraid of our own shadow, because those children that we cut off, they hit the street, they got resilient on the street, and they are coming after our monies. It was about time we did something different. It was about time we said, we look ourselves in the mirror and said, the elite of this country had had enough. And those who are poor should be allowed to get into the secondary education space. And that is why I like the determination of our president who said, let us do it now. Free senior high school now. We've done some kind of piloting for 60 years in the northern part of this country. And when I hear people talking about it's going to break the budget, in the most difficult and challenging times in the history of this nation, we never touched the northern scholarship because we knew it was the right thing to do. In 2017 and 18 budget, we have 899 million allocated to free senior high school. But you know what? If free senior high school had not been there, we still would have spent 350 million on secondary education. The net effect of free senior high school was 500 million. Yes, granted, it's not a chicken change, but it's the right investment to make in the youth of this country at this time, so that nobody will say that I was left behind and I did not get the opportunity to go. We talk about means testing. I know about means testing. In the United States of America, university education is based on means testing. If I sit next to my brother here and we get the same score on the SAT, I may go to a public university for free, or even private for free, based on need-based scholarship. And he will pay everything because he happens to come from a rich home. When you get accepted to a university, the first thing they ask you to bring is the tax documents of your parents. That's the first thing you report to any senior high university with your tax document. They look at how much your parents earn, and they say, okay, there's grant for you, there's scholarship for you, and this journey, you have to pay everything because your parent is rich. And it's possible because everybody files for his taxes. You have to file your taxes.
I get your point.
So when we talk about LEAP, LEAP, I know something about LEAP from my constituency. LEAP. People who are getting the LEAP were from certain party. Unfortunately. So if you want me to use LEAP to determine who goes and who doesn't go, I'm going to have a major problem with that in terms of education. And I'm talking as education first before politician.
I don't think the question was about giving free SHS to LEAP beneficiaries specific, but using that mode. And of course, your determination will not be the only one, because Prof. Kote, and actually this LEAP means testing question has come up on several discussions, that we have used LEAP to identify those who, excuse my language, are in need of it. Probably if it has been made on a partisan nature, the partisan nature has been used to exclude people rather than to include them. But Raymond had a point. I want you to combine the points that the two of us made.
Yes, and my specific one was to, since you spoke about the cost in a way that prioritization ought to be the case in this case, can you give us the specific in this case? What percentage of our education budget minus get fund goes into free SHS, the first year and the second year? Actually, again, forgive me, I just also wanted to know if you can move on beyond that to also give us specifics in this case. the entire budget for education at the senior high school level, what percentage of that went into compensation for education workers, went into goods and services, and the last part, the percentage that went into capital expenditure? If you could provide us that data, we will be in the position to determine for ourselves whether this is a heavy burden on us or something that we can do with in the interim or in the nearest future.
Thank you, Raymond. I think there are some figures I have here and I'll share with you.
Please do.
If you talk about the percentage of education, the education budget, I think you can begin to see the impact of what extra has been spent when you look at two things. Percentage of our education budget as part of the GDP. And you can go all the way back. I have data from 2012, when it was 7.9% of GDP, education budget, to when it went to actually 4.1, the actual was 4.1, and then went to 4.5 in 2016, education budget as part of the GDP. And then 2017, it was 4.5%, and then 2018, 4.7% was in the budget as part of. So there has not been a huge shift in terms of the percentage. Go to the actual, the projected in terms of not the GDP, but the actual budget, the national budget and percentage of education. 2017, the Minister of Finance projected 18.8%, and the actual was 28%. Then, as it is now, the actual is hovering around 27. And if you compare this to 2015, it was 22. So you see the growth is around about, on average, about 5% as a result of the additional implementation opportunities that we have free senior high school. But also, I did not break it down in terms of free senior high schools percentage, because you have other expansion of education opportunities. For example, building of KGs, that's not free senior high school. Okay, so I don't have the data that says percentage of funding high school, but I have the numbers. I have the numbers for you, and you can do the mathematics once you divide. You have 2017-18 was 899 million to 524,466. 2017-18 school year. And when you look at this, the next one, which we are dealing with now, you're going to have, last year was 1.2, 2018. And then we are moving into 1.6 billion for education, in terms of free secondary education expenditures. So if you divide it, of course, by the total, you get the percentages. But the bottom line is this.
My last request, for you, before you even actually bring your final comments on that, my last request was to find out from you.
Okay, so Raymond would he has a few technical challenges with his,
I guess so. My last question. Yes, okay, so my last question to you was briefly to find out, when you break down the education budget, specifically for free SHS, tell us the components. How much of it is going into compensation? How much of it is going into capital expenditure and goods and services, specifically? I
have a tall list. I can hand you a copy of it, but I can mention some of them to you.
No, I'm just talking
about... For example, school uniforms.
No, sorry, no.
You said you want...
I'm just looking at specifics, percentage. What percentage of the education budget for the senior high school level?
You did not ask me this when I was coming on the show to provide you those stuff. Give me what I have.
No, forgive me, because...
Yeah, because I have the numbers. All that I need to do is to calculate the percentage for you. But I have the numbers. I have all the line items. So if you want that, I can calculate it for you. I can give this to you. But to tell me on the show, to provide you percentages, when I have the numbers and I have to calculate, and then ask me for percentages coming in, I don't seem to get it. But I have the numbers for you. And it's line item by line item.
Mr. Hafar had a comment. You mentioned, Deputy Minister, that 899 million was the budget when free SHS was included, and it came to replace a 350 million budget. Then you netted off to get 500 million. The 350 million was dedicated to a certain expense.
Yes.
Did we replace 350 million with 899 million, or we added 899 million to 350?
Very good question. I think the issue is this. When we talk about free senior high school, we should not forget that it has taken over the Northern Scholarship. So there's no more Northern Scholarship.
Okay.
So the free senior high school captures the already allocated, in 2017, the already projected budget for Northern Scholarship. And then in addition to that, it has also taken over the subsidies that were paid to senior high schools. So if you add it all up between the subsidies and the Northern Scholarship, it was about 350 million. So when you hear of free senior high school budget in 2017-18 of 899 million, the net effect of the free senior high school is around 500 million, because if free senior high school had not come, we would still have spent about 350 million on secondary education, either on the Northern Scholarship or on the subsidies that were paid to senior high school.
Okay, that answers the question. Let me go to Mr. Hafa now. You were raising your hand at a point. You wanted to come in?
No, I don't think I was raising my hand, but I have a lot of issues here too.
Yeah, but so let me give you 2 minutes for that. Okay.
Kofi is around. I mean, he has direct questions for him on
for the minister.
Yes, so this is directly to him.
Okay.
On the.
If I allow Mr. Hafa to talk, they will say I'm being biased to my own voice.
Yes, be very mindful of that.
No, so Mr. Bentel,
right.
Go ahead.
So, and let me start by saying, even though I speak about Imani, consistently raised our, misgivings about free SHS, you will notice that at least in a year, we have basically not commented. The reason is because of the confidence we, kind of find in people like Deputy Minister here, who gives us some hope that maybe this thing is going to work out. I am saying this because of what you just said in response to some of the things we said. And directly, Mr. Minister, this whole populist argument about this is a construct against the poor, whenever we talk about means testing, should be dropped. It should be dropped because it totally messes with the argument. We need to be very clinical about this. Poverty is not a qualifying attribute for admission into Mfantsipim or Ghana National College. And there are poor people who pass and they go into these schools. That has been our history. And that is what we have destroyed. Now, what we need to do is to say, when you pass, however you do it, you will get admission to school even if you don't have the money. That is what scholarships are there for. And free SHS destroys that. I don't have the time to explain all of that, but it destroys that. Now, so my first suggestion is that, please, this whole argument that all people asking for means testing are saying we should cut off the poor is wrong. There are at least 3 different ways you can do means testing today. And one is what Chief said. If there are people who have gone to your school, Jachi Premso, who have become deputy minister like you. Now, without examples like you, somebody will say Jachi Premso is for poor people. It is not. Swedru Secondary School was not known for many years until it started beating Wesley girls and everybody. So what we call the grade B schools or whoever, it is a very fine way of doing means testing so that you take off the pressure from the Mfantsipims and the Wesley girls and the Ghana Nationals and all those other places, instead of saying we are consigning poor people to those places. Secondly, you see, when somebody passes, whether they are rich or they are poor, and that person can show that I don't have the money to go, it's easy to tell because you have the pass grade. So, sir, let us stop this thing about making it wholesale and saying that that is for the poor. It directly defeats the poor. Poverty is not a qualifying attribute for accessing quality education.
Okay, I'll go to Mr. Hafa. I love to take all the concerns before you come. Okay, go ahead.
You see, there are things that we may not understand if we have not been poor before. No, it's interesting because you see, when we talk about these issues, if you talk about these issues, No. It's not a populist argument. You see, it's not something that you are doing intentionally. You don't sit here conspiring against poor people. No. Some of us and some of you, even if you are educated and you have all the resources, you care for sometimes 10 students who you may not know. I've met people who themselves did not grow up poor, but they pick up poor children on the street and educate them. Ghanaians are caring people. I don't think there's anybody who has not been approached by a parent before free senior high school for support. There's a friend of mine who used to say that when the schools are about to open, it was difficult for him to go to church because all the parents were coming to him for support. So this is not to say that anybody meets anywhere and conspires against the poor. But all that we are saying is this: if we are not careful, that is not our intent. But the end results become that. Let me give you an example of a student who comes from very little means from my constituency. Hardworking students, passed very well, got accepted to medical school, and is fee paying. How is he going to go? So yes, so no, where is the scholarship for medical school in Ghana? No, they don't have it. So all that I'm saying is this: in as much as you're,
Mr. Beto, I would plead with you to let him complete that point. Yeah. Since you are here, we still have you respond to him, so no problem.
So our intent,
can we allow the deputy ministers to complete?
Yes.
Yeah. Our intent may not be that, but we end up punishing the poor. Let me tell you one thing. When you talk about Mfansipim, I didn't get the opportunity to go to Mfansipim, but some friends of mine who went to Mfansipim tells me that your school used to go around the country to recruit.
I went to Ghana National, not in Mfansipim.
Okay, whoever went there. It's a better school.
I went to Ghana National. It's a better school. Far better.
But you kept saying Mfansipim.
No, because it was they are in the market.
Okay,
we are on the fine hill.
Okay. So friends of mine who went to Mfansipim who always tease me all the time about going to the Atepram. So what they told me was that they had headmasters who travel around the country and recruited intentionally.
That's right.
Recruited children from across the country. So these are students who may not even know about Mfansipim. When I was doing my chosen schools on the common entrance, did you know I knew about Mfansipim and that I could go there? But you would think that I'm supposed to know. The teachers who were teaching, nobody said, they said, choose Jacha Pramso, choose Sunyane Susek. And then your third choice is Asankregwa. So that's what I'm saying sometimes. If you've not been poor before, you don't know. So we may say that, what stops you from coming to Mfansipim? I don't even know that I can go there. So there are times when you have to do like we've done now. We've done affirmative action from last year. 30% of all spaces are Wesley girls in Mfansipim, all these schools reserved for students who went to public schools.
Sir, you are venturing into general policy, and I want us to finish the comments on free SHS quickly so that we move into general policy. Yeah. So I'll take Mr. Hafa, but let me just steal a few minutes to say good morning to Michael Ohinefa of Lead Afrique. Mr. Ohinefa, thanks a lot for joining us. Mr. Hafa, yeah, please go ahead.
I think we need to start a philosophical basis on which we're going to attract students.
Actually respond to the issues that have come after, because we are moving beyond that. Also, I'll be bringing my guest here into the conversation, and indeed, we will be doing the scoring too. So it's an important part of our engagement. So those of you who want clarification before you engage in the scoring, Doc, in the next 3 minutes, I need you to respond to the key issues that's been raised here. The insistence that in the nearest future you still come back to means testing. The rejection of what the suggestion is supposed to be in this case about the stance you have to the people who are involved in the programs today. And if you finish that, don't forget to add the basic schools conversations that just started. How do we make sure that it's not the private schools alone that are feeding the best schools in the country, but we make sure we have quality products from these public basic schools?
Thank you. I think from where I sit. Yes.
So you can get another microphone close by if that's become difficult.
I think that the issue is that invariably, when you talk about challenges in Africa, and for that matter, Ghana, if you are not careful, you can easily be overwhelmed because you will list the tirade of challenges, and at the end of the day, you throw up your hands in the air and say, I quit. You may not say, I quit verbally, but in your mind, you quit. So I came from a place where there was a system, and where it was not working, you could tweak it to get it to work. So when I talk about we don't have a system, I'm not in any way saying that whatever was there did not produce. But you see, all these issues that have come up and we are talking about, if you don't focus on building some structures, it's very difficult for you to overcome them. So if you talk about quality, if you don't go back and train the teachers better, you can supervise the schools all you want. You may not get the intended outcome. So you look at what we have done. 4-year College of Education program. 4 years of different curricula where you focus on learner by diversity, understanding your students, special needs students, which we are just scratching the surface. So now we have an opportunity.
And that's not purely academic work. Yes. That's not the rote learning kind of thing that you're teaching them there.
And then, as I said, the PISA report was saying that if you don't change the way you teach and students learn, you are just throwing money away. So that is why Free Senior High School, we've always talked about the quality. If you look at double track, you go to Accra girls today, ask them before the double track and now, what is their class size? The class size has dropped. So now teachers have lower class size. I'll not be able to say it's true of all senior high, but I know about Accra girls that their class sizes have dropped because of the double track. Now, if your class sizes drop and you leverage it well, you'll have an opportunity to improve quality. But that in itself, double track in itself, it's not a silver bullet. It's a silver lining. You can take advantage of it and do some quality things. However, if you're going to improve quality, you're going to have to train your headmasters, retrain, and then create a different pipeline for headmastership, as my brother rightly said. And if you look at this year's budget, there's a training component that is reflected in it, that we're going to create a pipeline of new headmasters in this country.
Okay.
You don't have to teach for 40 years before you become a headmaster and then you retire the next day. What we are saying is this. If you have young and dynamic individuals who have taught for 3 to 4 years, show leadership skills, nothing stops us from putting them in a leadership pipeline so that they become the leaders of our schools. So we're not going to throw our hands up in the air and keep on saying that provided the headmasters, then we did not give them capacity. So there are quality issues that we are tackling because, as you said, and as I even use the PISA research to buttress, if we don't improve quality, we are throwing money away. For example, intervention grants, 50 cedis per student in all high schools from year 1 to year 3, all schools, is because we believe in making sure that students who are struggling will be provided tutoring. So we are doing it now. So there are a number of quality issues that we've identified, and to me, and that is why the national assessment became key. Invariably, you hear of the examiner's report. When do you hear about the examiner's report? At the end of the WASI. So headmasters come together, they read the report and say, oh, our students are not doing well in geometry in Ghana, and that is why we are not competing very well in mathematics. But those students that you are talking about are gone. If you had assessed those who were in SHS2 and you saw that they had a problem, you could have intervened so that the outcome would have been different. And that is why we are bringing national assessment. So when the Form 2 students are assessed nationally and the data is in front of us, headmasters can then look at it and say, okay, when you break it down subject by subject, this school is not doing well in English, and the reason why we are not doing well, when you break it down further, is because we are not teaching mechanics well. Therefore, we are going to improve on it.
And the national assessment is starting when specifically? When is it starting?
Next academic year.
Okay, the next academic year. Well, there was a question about preparation for tertiary institutions as they seek to double at the SHS level. The tendency, of course, we know that just around or about 70% do not get the chance to go to these tertiary institutions. But with the increase in numbers, the number will automatically increase in this case. What's the preparation at the tertiary level?
Yeah, I think there are two things that we are looking at. The first thing is to actually look at the facility constraints, as Prof. Kwati said. And actually, I'm going to take Prof's number. You have some good ideas. I'll come and study from you, Prof. I'll sit in one of your classes. He'll become a good friend of mine from today. He has some great ideas. all that we are saying is this. We went to Parliament and sought approval for $1.5 billion, GET fund, to borrow $1.5 billion. $500 million is to support universities so that they can complete some of the infrastructure that has been lying there idle for years.
Very long time.
So that is going to help the university. $500 million will go to basic schools, and $500 million will go to senior high schools, and it's just going to focus on infrastructure. The good thing is that we are only using 40% of the GET fund resources for that, which means there's other resources left that can even help further. But the government took that decision, of course, championed by the president, that if we sit here and talk about developing infrastructure the same way that we have done it for years, which is GET fund gets some small amount of money this year, you use it to add on to some buildings, you leave it there till next year some money come, you build on it. Some buildings have been sitting there for 20 years, not completed. Okay. So we said we have to do it differently. Borrow against the revenue that is going to come anyway. Build all the schools today and tomorrow. Allow the students to then have the facilities so that you pay down as the money is coming. So that is a new formula to address some of the Prof. Kwati's concerns about.
When is that starting? I just want to know specifically.
Parliament has approved it now. We have a lot of lenders lined up by the Ministry of Finance. So we are hoping beginning January, because we have actually began the process of assessing the facility needs of all the schools.
Okay.
In fact, we have we've tendered the construction of 75 classroom blocks and dormitories across the country. And within January, we'll see a lot of construction going on in various senior high schools. The plan is that the second year does not become double track.
Okay.
Which means that when the students are moving from Form 1 to Form 2, there will be enough facility there so that they will all join together as one stream. And that is what we are working on now. And the good news is that Parliament has approved for us to get the funding and do the work. So the goal here is wherever we promise. Now, I know my brother from Imani, Mr. Benton, I was talking about if double track is so good, why abandon it? Why don't you keep it? You see, we're going to use this facility around the clock. You have to contend with maintenance and other issues. So it's not a perfect system. It's what you do when you have to do, when you have to address these infrastructural gaps and concerns. But as you move forward, you allow the facilities to rest a bit.
I get your point. I think that point is also well made. Dr. Prisama, maybe you comment on this particular matter. Are we going to see light at the end of the tunnel? Some have said that it is the evaluation of the students after the 3 years that you know whether or not, first and foremost, free SHS yielded some results, and the double track is in and of itself an effective quality change in this case. So I want him to comment on that before I get you out there to join us in this conversation.
Yeah, thanks. I don't think that using the exiting exams as at the end of the free SHS as a basis to judge whether free SHS is good or not, because the exiting exams is a matriculation exams. It's an examination designed for top set people. It's an exams designed for the top 60%.
So how do you then determine whether or not this was a success or not?
Yeah, so the point is about they've had access. Secondary education has 3 purposes, and we need to understand that. Secondary education is not only to prepare people to go to university. Secondary education is to prepare people first to go to university as one point, as an entry point to enter the world of work, as an entry point also to get into technical vocational training, entrepreneurship, and the rest. So all over the world, that's the purpose of secondary education.
So you are convinced that if they can't pass the exams, they are prepared for any of the other things?
So therefore, we must also understand that not everybody is capable of doing academic work. And that's what we need to get it. Not everybody is capable of doing or interested in doing academic work. Some can do by hands. And so we cannot push everybody to enter the university.
But there are secondary technical schools, so therefore, will feed into the technical universities here.
So therefore, the exiting examination of WASI, and remember, before secondary school came, we had A-level, and A-level was the exiting examination to university. Now, WASI came to replace A-level, And therefore, WASI now is the matriculation examination or university entrance exams.
Okay.
All right. So we need to get that. And we must remember that in order to allow more people to get into the secondary school system, we say that those who could get aggregate 8, say grade 8 in all subjects, they still qualify in the senior secondary school. Now, many of these people may not have the academic interest and cognitive ability probably to do rigorous academic work. They may have interest in doing things with their hands. And so it will be very difficult, and I've said this, it will be very difficult for anybody to judge free SHS on the basis of WASI.
Okay.
So, yeah, so the evaluation, what we can do, and we have made this suggestion to the ministry. What we can do is to design a national minimum competency system. If we say secondary education means a basic education for everyone, then it means that that person finishing secondary education must be able to demonstrate some basic competencies. And those basic competencies will require some assessment to be able to say that this person has finished basic education, he has finished secondary school, and is able to do the A, B, C, and D. And for those who can then enter to the universities, then we can have the WASI. So we will need a national assessment, and which is what the Deputy Minister is saying, a national assessment that will look at the minimum competencies and to be able to see that these people who have finished the secondary school, at least they can undertake some numerical activities, they have strong literacy, you know, they can communicate effectively, they are responsible citizens. But let's also remember that, for example, secondary education provides the platform for people to even become responsible citizens and take part in civil activities, demonstrate their democratic rights responsibly. So the attributes and characteristics that we want to see in our young people must be clearly espoused, you know, through the free SHS program, so that it does not become a system, you know, determined by how many people
go to the universities. And I'm most grateful on this particular point. I've reached the point where we have to get your thoughts, those of you already gathered in here. If you want to ask a question directly to any of the panel up here, you can ask so. And if you want to make a brief comment too, you'll be allowed to do so. So Nick, wave, let them see you. Yes, Kofi Ansah too has grabbed a microphone, and so these gentlemen are available. So please put up your hand if you want to ask a question. I will start from the gentleman in blue, the one you're close to.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Teacher Kwashi.
Okay.
From NAT.
Okay.
And I will ask that you permit me to ask 3 simple questions. Three.
Okay,
simple.
You see, because of how
I don't think
NAT is,
a question will take more than 10 words.
But please, make it very brief.
And my question goes to the Honorable Deputy Minister. And the first one is, do we accept that education too is key to our development? And I just need yes or no answers. Then my second question. Now, if you accept that education is key to our development, do we again accept the principle that government alone cannot shoulder the responsibility of education? And if government agrees to that, will then government allow parents, especially in SHS, to also come in with some kind of assistance to fund education? I'm done.
Well, thank you so much. And I think these are pretty straightforward ones. Let me go to Kofi Ansah and let me get somebody from that. And okay, yes, sir. Please get up and speak.
Yeah, okay, so I would like to forward this question to Honorable Minister, saying that there were problems before our prerequisite education, that's in the secondary level, and our new system also came up with its own problem. So how are we going to manage this dual circumstance to get away with it? Because we don't want to quit.
Okay, I'll go back to Nick, where you are. The gentleman behind you. There's a gentleman behind you by the wall.
Hello, I'm Asari Adey. I have a question. why are we neglecting the basic, the primary level? Why are we forgetting the primary level? Why are we comfortable with what we have with the primary level and are so fixated with the SHS level? I think it is all a result of limited constraints. We don't have the money to do all that we want to do. Okay. And for that reason, we have to help, let parents contribute the bit that they can contribute. Okay. Because I'm a parent, I have 3 kids, 2 in the university, Wonderful. And I have 1 at the primary. So I know how it is to pay fees, the burden that it is on parents to pay fees. I get your point. But I think parents will also want to feel responsible. We believe we owe it a duty to our children to be responsible. So when government says that it is not allowing people to contribute, because in the secondary schools now, there are schools where it's like parents are not permitted to even make contribution. That is the problem that some of us are having with the system. Otherwise, we all want help with the fees, the burden of fees on us as parents.
Thank you so much. I get your point. And maybe as an addendum to that, there was supposed to be a fund also created that people could contribute in the previous budget. I don't know what's gone up with that one, but let me come to, yes, you.
Okay, thank you. I'm Albert.
Yes, Albert.
From the University of Ghana. Please, Mr. Hafford made a point. Hafford, okay, sorry. Made a point that character is a societal issue. And then our education is also a societal intervention program. And our responsibility also focus on character. And we were talking about quality of the free SHS. So that has to be based on the character building from the basic schools, from our headmasters, as we all mentioned. So I would like to ask the minister, what is that character building program that our quality of the education will be based on, that they are offering our teachers, our students to become aware that they are being offered free education for a purpose in order not to waste money.
I get your point. See, I picked up 3 of these now. Let me take 2 more. Okay, let me just put it on hold for now and get the answers to some of these. 2 of them went to you, the Honorable Osei Oduchum. Yes, the predominant number.
Okay. I think there was a question about, I should say yes or no. That's a trick question. Because you know the answer already. He's saying, do you accept the education scheme to Addo? Of course, you know that too. You are from NAT.
So that's yes, right?
Who better knows that than you?
So that's yes.
And accept that government alone. Of course, government alone cannot do it.
Yes, number 2.
You talk about, I think there were questions from the young man at the end.
No, there was a last question from the NAT gentleman.
To combine the 2 about
the 2 of them, yeah.
You see, when we talk about parents' participation in this country, I think my brother alluded to it in his discussion. Invariably, we are just telling the parent, bring your money. You don't have to worry about what we use the money for. And in fact, if we don't teach, that's not your problem. Parent participation should be holistic. I want parents in this country to rise up and participate in the education of their children by visiting schools, sitting in classrooms when possible, the head teacher, just walking around and seeing how teaching and learning is going on. I do unannounced visits, and I leave some schools and my heart is literally aching. Walk into a school, they don't know who I am. Now most of them know me, but before, they didn't know who I was. And I take off my tie, leave it in the car, and just go around, go and see the teaching and learning in the classroom. And those are schools where parents invariably are contributing. And there are cases where parents are not also bringing their children to school. Just close by here, Aburi area, walk into a school, 7 kids out of 25 were sitting in the classroom. I asked the teacher what's going on. They say today is Thursday. They go to the mountains to pray. Why is that happening? Because we don't even have an attendance system. Now we're introducing an attendance system to make sure that we can know that attendance. So yes, parents should participate. Parent contribution is important. The reason why you've heard this issue about parent participation and why some schools are not being allowed is the way it is being done. Okay. If you send a text message to parents before they even come to the school. They are not part of the PTA yet. You send text message to them that when you are coming, you should bring 150 cedis. That parent who doesn't have 150 is not going to show up. And that is where we have a problem. We are not saying that when parents come together and say, okay, I want to give 200. Somebody says, I'll give 5,000. There's nothing wrong with it.
Has the account been set up? Sorry, has the account been set up? The one that was promised in the 2018
budget? No, that's Minister of Finance. No, it has not been set up yet.
Okay.
But when you talk about parents, there are some schools that are getting donations, I won't mention them, getting donations from parents, and they haven't had any problem with anybody. They set up their accounts. They inform the parents that if you want to donate, you donate into it, tell us the name of your child, and we'll recognize you. When you talk about levying that every student, when you are coming to register, and you know how difficult it is for some parents, and some schools did it, send a text message. So that parent doesn't have the 150, it's not coming to the school to register, and that is where we have a problem.
Doc, because of my time, I need to move on to Anis right away on the question that were directly asked to you. Then I'll take some more questions that we can wrap up on our conversation here.
Right. I think what he was talking about is character, which forms part of a sense of responsibility. And you know, and again, I'll give an example of when I was in class 1 in a village. It was our responsibility to own the school, not only in terms of talking about owning the school, but growing flowers around the school. We're in class 1. Not only that, when we started growing flowers and the goats were eating the flowers, then we went to the bush to cut bamboo. And we surrounded the school with bamboo, a sense of responsibility. But what we have now is where, and then the school management make sure that we were involved. This was class 1. Can you imagine the number of kids that we have in this country, even at the basic level, who have no idea how they can contribute their effort to make the school a better place? And then I want to cite the example of the IB program. I don't know if you've heard of it, the International Baccalaureate. Yeah. There's a component that called service learning. That part of your education is not just to do the true, false, multiple choice, true, poor, pass, and that sort of thing. But what do you give of yourself to add value to the institution that you're in? That is what breeds character. So these are the things that have to be incorporated. And then I'll give the last example. I remember right here in Accra, I was doing a teacher training program for a particular school, and they were talking about, the discussion was hypertension and how people get hypertension and so on. It was all paperwork. But then the idea was this. The question I asked is this: who pays your school fees? My mother, my father, my uncle, whoever. Do you know if they are hypertensive? But then, so you know what we did? We brought in a nurse and a doctor to the school to teach all the kids JHS2. We didn't mess with JHS3 because they were preparing for their exams. JHS2. In one day, these kids could now understand how to take blood pressure. And guess what? They took the education into the community. They set up canopies. And for the first time, we have parents, grandparents, and old people who've never been in a hospital before being serviced by these young people. What I'm saying is this: you build character by incorporating that into the curriculum so that we have actionable objectives. Now, let me tell you what happened to the school. In 1 year, they topped the BECE in Accra. The next year, they topped the whole country. So what I'm saying is this: when people begin to see the purpose for which they are studying, then it empowers them to be lifelong learners and take the education into other places too. But that should be the responsibility of the schools of the education, where you raise teachers so that they can bring the best out of our young people, and it's not just true, poor, pass, or true, false, and multiple choice.
Yes,
these have to be incorporated into
I need to hold
that builds character.
A second for me, because I need to take some more questions. We'll be wrapping up soon, but some of these questions, let me go to the back. I think, yes, Note.
Yeah, let me just, thank you, Raymond. To the Minister, I just wanted to seek a categorical, conclusive response from you. Because I think part of our bane or problem is that there's lack of clarity in communication, this issue of parental involvement and contribution. We had a comment from the Finance Minister which suggested that this partnership is welcome and indeed eagerly being facilitated. Then
immediately in response to that, we heard another comment from the education minister and some other quarters that this was solely his personal view. Can you tell us, as part of this scorecard, what is the direction, specifically, categorically, and conclusively, with regard to parental contribution, especially as we are now hammering on this point that, well, it's welcome, it's the way it's supposed to be done. I don't want to hear tomorrow a member of the government or the ministry suggesting that the views you've expressed today are your own. So what is the direct categorical answer on parental contribution?
I'm taking two more. One there, the gentleman there, yeah.
Yes, I am full support of free education. I live at Kasua. I have talked to over 200 taxi drivers. Only 5 of them had SS education. 5 out of 200. In 1970, I was in Form 3, Winneba Anglican School, when I passed common entrance with 9 others out of a class of 48. And that was it. The rest did not go to high school. Now, I know I'm involved in education on the international level. Almost the whole of Europe has free education from primary to university. United States has free education from primary to certain public schools, public universities. So free education is life, is part of life, and we must make up our mind. Now about the parents who say they have money to pay taxes. Let's increase our taxes. And Ghanaians don't want to pay taxes. You are being given free education, and you are saying that we are here, we can pay. Let us increase the taxes for those parents, and I think it will be well for us.
Okay, I get your point, and I'll come there because I've not taken a question. There's one with the microphone, yes, please.
So, I'm Eugene.
And please make it shorter
Okay,
so we can move on.
My
We
question
are
is
way out of time.
with regards to the syllabus. So we had opportunity to go to 4 years and 3 years using the same syllabus as though going for the double track. So my question is, are they going to restructure the syllabus to suit them, or they're still going to use the same syllabus as those of us use for the 3 terms, 4 years and the 3 years?
Okay, so your question is on curriculum development, and maybe I'll take the last question. Take it forward. I think the front seat has been here for some time.
All right, my name is Christopher, and I want to share some thoughts on the discussion. I think that it's important to recognize the significant intervention done boldly by this current government so far as education is concerned. If you look at the number of enrollment into free SHS, it's clear that indeed a lot of people have gotten access to the education. I think there's a collective responsibility across board, not only government or the framework of the policy, for us to make sure that it is something that is sustainable. If you tell me about parents' involvement, I think that before time, parents were already involved. I had parents that, even though I was on scholarship, gave me visiting hours on school and also make sure that my homeworks and things are done. So clearly, it is more like character. It's character that is supposed to use to support the program.
Okay.
And let's make sure that it's sustainable. I think that the government needs to be really commended.
Okay, thank you so much. Forgive me, I can't take any more of your comments. I wish I could take more of them. I'm about wrapping up here, and just like we did for the economy section, I'll be compelling those on the panel here to give me the scores. So 1 to 10, you place government-specific performance in the area of education between any of these, including the Deputy Minister for the record. So I will start with, yes, Prince, if you can start for me. So 1 to 10.
Well, thanks very much.
Not just on free SHS, I mean the entire education sector.
Actually, we have done, you see the manifesto commitments.
I've seen your report.
So there are about 25 of them. We've looked at each of them, what is currently being done. And I've given a copy to your colleagues, so you can peruse it
I get it, but I want you to do the ranking now.
For us, we'll say 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
I mean, of course, 7 out of 10 on the basis 7 out of 10 on the basis that there are 2 years and there are still some, projects that have to be completed within the
I get your point.
commitment.
Yes, yeah. So that's so far what has been done. Now, Anis.
Yes, sir.
1 to 10.
Well, you know something? When we look at the these are some serious times, though.
I get your point, but I will crave your indulgence.
When you look at the intention and the commitment to start this process going, I would say 8.
8.
Yes.
Okay, so now let me come to this side. Professor Peter Korte, you have extraordinary competence in grading students. I want you to let it reflect in this particular ranking. Yes. Yeah. Yes, please proceed.
Yes, I'll give you 2 quick. I have 2 quick recommendations to the minister. Then I'll give my score.
Okay,
quickly.
I'll create room for that.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
Quickly, 30 seconds. Honorable Minister, we fully support the free SHS. Apart from the things I have said, I want you to also consider a community library so that when the double track guys come home, they'll have somewhere to study. You don't have to construct one. You can rent 4-bedroom, 3-bedroom. Start with something, and I believe, and then private schools, they are partners. Don't leave them out in your endeavor. Now my scoring.
Yes, please.
If you want to know, yes, 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
Yes.
So we have 2 of the 7s. There's an 8. Okay, Kofi. People anticipate something.
Maybe they know I'll speak the truth. We are not scoring intentions.
Yeah.
We are scoring
it's performance.
Performance.
Yeah.
And I said first that the free SHS argument has made it look as if we didn't have problems in the education system before. So my scoring is as follows. On the issue of dealing with the existing problems they came to meet in education is 40%. Because the major management issues are still there, local ownership, still there.
So 4 out of 10.
On that, the old problems. And on free SHS, it's 55% unstable. And what I mean is that I think they've done a lot with the free SHS, but it's 55, which is a pass mark. But unstable because when you start a race, you can be in front for 3/4 of the time, and then everybody will pass you. Unstable because we are not sure today where funding from free SHS is coming from for the next few years. We are not sure if it's beyond politics and therefore will not be scrapped by the next government.
I get you.
So you get me. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I mean, they asked me to ask you for overall performance.
So I think it's a 50%.
Okay, 50% on the average on that. And the Honorable Dr. Osei Oduchum, you have an opportunity to score your sector. Very briefly.
Of course. We've done very well. My brother, 55 is fail in America. but you see, it's 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10?
Yes.
Yeah.
9 out of 10.
I was tempted to ask you out there whether you agree with any of the scoring, but unfortunately, we need to move on to talk about health pretty soon. So thank you so much for being part of this forum. You can't leave because health is as important as education in this case. So thank you so much, Dr. Prince, Dr. Osei Oduchum, Anis, thank you so much. You've been wonderful as usual. Professor Peter Korte, Kofi Bentel, and ladies and gentlemen, we'll be doing a 5-minute switch or panel. The next team you should be interested in. Some big man is doing the moderation here, and you'll get to know more about that when we switch pretty soon. But thank you so much for joining us here. Thank you.